Hey everyone. So through and through, this whole episode basically belonged to Rob Lucci. It was just him coming in, wrecking house, and just showing, yes, he's back. But one other thing to take note of with this episode, and with Lucci himself, are a lot of the decisions he makes throughout the episode. Which is to say, he's making quick, snappy decisions that, while fall in line with his duty as a CP0 agent, they're also based around the thought process of what can get the job done with the least amount of casualties. And I do like how that does show a change within Lucci, that he's not as willing to sacrifice lives for the sake of it, for the sake of justice as he used to, and probably only sees it as the last resort. So getting defeated by Luffy definitely changed something in him and changed his perspective. Also, on that note as well, I like how we get to see that Kaku seems to be more openly enjoying himself and expressing his emotions more, like throughout the episode. And while that is a side to himself we have seen before, it is also kind of true that this particular side of himself was kind of undercut as well by his commitment to being an assassin to the government. But moments like him fighting with the dragon shows I think he's embraced the side of himself that just enjoys himself and wants to have fun even if he is still an assassin for the government. Like he's just openly kind of more in tune with his emotions, I guess you could say, as weird as that sounds. Um, but okay, now with that said, there is one little exchange I do want to draw attention to, which is Lucci inquiring about Stussy knowing so much about Egghead, and her response is simply it's that she's got a nostalgic connection to it. So obviously there is an association between her and Vegapunk. But as a manga reader, I gotta tell you, the connection in itself is one of the most out of left field, out of pocket kind of reveals ever. Like, it's one of those reveals that you as a viewer have absolutely no idea about until it's revealed, and even the best like theory crafting is only gonna make you say, "Really? That's the connection?" And yeah, as I said before, Lucci is just as dangerous as he was back then with a sing as we see with the episode, and as we see that when Atlas finally shows up to kind of defend Egghead with a single strike, like he Lucci managed to take down Atlas, showing that yeah, even with Luffy's growth in power and his awakening, the rematch with Lucci ain't gonna be a cakewalk. Like, this thing is gonna be like one of those fights where, to one extent or another, I think it's fair to say that Luffy is going to struggle a bit. Um, but with that said, I do like Kaku's little comment when the Straw Hats and CP0 confront each other, which is that now that Luffy is an emperor, it does award him certain protections that force the government into a position of not confronting him outright anymore. Like it's not like before where every time the Straw Hats are just on open sea traveling, they find themselves like in a confrontation with the Navy. No, that in itself is kind of an impossibility at this point. Like, it's the Navy and the government can't outright confront him. They have to actually they have to go through a couple different channels before they can actively attack him anymore. And it does show that, yeah, even despite what may or may not happen on here, I it is going to be difficult for him to. It is going to be difficult for Luffy to actively be attacked anymore by the world government. At least in theory. I don't know how. It's at least in theory. There's one little, I think, caveat to this rule, but I'll get to it. We'll get to it when we get to it. Um, although at the same time, it's when you really think about Luffy as a character, the idea of him having having these safeguards and just having these protections is kind of a moot point when you think about who Luffy is as a character, because we know how impulsive Luffy can be, and just seeing Atlas so banged up, you know is going to guarantee to send him into a rage regardless. But it is a nice bit of worldbuilding to know that even that that Luffy does actually have these kind of protections in place. That he isn't exactly as that he well he is still a target for the world government and can still be targeted. There are certain things that can't be done outright anymore. And I also love that for as much as Lucci tells Luffy to stay out of this whole situation, you can tell he's just as much itching for a potential rematch, which, let's be honest, we're all here for. We're all here for, and we know exactly what, and we we know exactly what Lucci's cooking. Like he's like, yeah, please take the bait, Luffy. I want a second chance at fighting you. I want to see how powerful you become and just measure myself against you. Like that's kind of what Lucci's doing right now. Um, and now, if I did take issue with anything in this episode, I'd say the animation was not as amazing as previous episodes, but I do kind of forgive it too, because this whole episode was just setting the stage and to show us that yeah, Lucci is back. Although on the artwork front too, I I don't know if it was intentional or not, but there were a few frames where you get a close up of a kind of like a closer to medium close up shot of Lucci's face, and the whole facial structure of Lucci's face feels like it was a little bit weirdly drawn in places. So yeah, it's one of those where an overall good episode, but art and animation was a little wonky in certain places. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Analyst Control, push the notification bell, the subscribe button, and share the video around, guys. Dark Knight Only, signing off. Later, everyone.